Well, if you would have told me 3 years ago we would be doing show number 300 live with quote unquote fans of the show, I would have told you, A, I don't know how to do anything live, and B, you actually think this show's going to last 300 episodes? But here we are, growing every day, and you're here to celebrate with us. So today, for the 300th time, we'll talk about what people who love Southeast Louisiana sports want to talk about. And for the first time, a few of them will be virtually on set with us. Oh, and the rest of you will be part of it the way you always are. Start typing it in now. Get ready. Let's get to it. The Dattitude podcast is up next.
If you're looking for the latest scoop and in-depth interviews on the Saints, the NFL, the Pelicans, LSU, along with the best bets of the week, then lucky you. Along with high-powered, in-the-know guests who cover our teams, Jim Derry brings plenty of Dattitude. And he'll always tell you the way it is, or at least the way he thinks it is.
Where you at, New Orleans? And hello to my friends elsewhere, everywhere, out there, who want to name a number of the person who decided it was a good idea to let this loudmouth West Bank Yat have his own show for 37 months and counting. Yep, we'll still hear you, haters. I know some of you like, how's this dude still on whatever airwaves it is? But we're still here. I know y'all thought the Taylor Swift concert today was the big deal in New Orleans. Nope. It's really Dattitude. Episode number 300, presented by Evangeline Securities for a Friday, October the 25th, 2024. You got it. I'm your host, Jim Derry, whether you're watching on one of our NOLA.com social media channels or listening to the podcast on demand after the fact. Why are you listening on demand? You got to work? I don't care if you got to work. Work's not an excuse. It's episode number 300. You take off. Whatever it is. Thank you for being a part of the Dattitude family. Of course, today we'll be talking about the Saints a lot, but it'll be very different for part of it. We have three special guests this morning / this afternoon. We will get into that in just a minute. It's three of you who have been typing in. They're going to be here. You're going to see their faces this morning. I'm going to see their faces this morning. So Friday's usually a guest day, but you're our guest, a modified Mano E Friday, if you will. I don't know how that kind of stuck. I don't even remember who gave us the Mano E Monday. Gabe, do you even remember that? It was a while ago now. I don't remember now. Anyway, news this morning before we get to it all. We don't have Pelicans here on the screen as we get started, but bad news for the Pelicans that we were kind of expecting. DeJounte Murray out 4 to 6 weeks. He had successful surgery on his broken hand, so that ain't the way to start that. I know you can't blame that kind of stuff on the training staff, but dude, I mean, how does two franchises that are kind of merged together with the same people running them for the most part, how they get snake bit with injuries and whatever like that? I mean, you look at the Saints and what happened to them. Now it's the Pelicans constantly. Zion's sick. DeJounte Murray, you go get this free agent, and he's already going to be out for 4 to 6 weeks. First game of the year. I mean, is it just something about coming to the city that you automatically, what the hell are we paying for is what I want to know. I mean, Katrina wasn't enough. We got to keep paying this crap over and over again. Yeah, I'm a little bitter this morning. It just bothers me. Meanwhile, the Saints, on the other hand, you love the theme music. Thank you. That is that's my brother-in-law, by the way. For some of you who've not been, I haven't talked about it in a while, I guess. My brother-in-law, Phil Anselmo, who is the lead singer was the lead singer for Pantera. I guess he is because they're back together again doing a reunion tour. If you didn't know, he is my brother-in-law, and he does the intro to the show. He's been on the show. So that music is actually from one of his other bands called Down. But so yeah, Phil Anselmo is my wife's brother. We're going over there Saturday night for a haunted house. That should be fun. He does that every year. So anyway, DeJounte Murray, I just don't get it. Snake bit, whatever. We joked about the snake bit thing the other day. That's kind of like where I feel we are right now. This whole New Orleans sports scene. You're like waiting for, whenever you're waiting for the next bad thing to happen, that's when you know it's, I don't want to say jinx. It's not necessarily a jinx, but it is what it is. Before we get to the meat of the show today, also, how about last night's NFL game? Now, I liked it because I had the Rams. So I actually bet the Rams money line, and we told you on the show yesterday what we liked. Nick and I were both on the Rams. I like the money line and I like the spread. So yeah, I didn't feel bad about last night. If you know what I'm talking about, with about, I don't know, a minute and 50 seconds left or so, the Rams led 28-21. They ran as much clock as they could. Great punt down to the 3-yard line. Sam Darnold, as we said, is turning back into Sam Darnold. I mean, he was okay. Don't get me wrong. He wasn't the Sam Darnold of old. Well, he just stunk. He was okay. But he's turning back into that pumpkin. We're getting close to Halloween. He's turning into a pumpkin. And the Vikings last night at the 3-yard line, Darnold drops back in the end zone. He's sacked for a safety. He starts complaining about a face mask. And of course, since I have the Rams, I'm like, yeah, touch the face mask. I'm like, then they show the replay. Ooh, yikes. Got away with one. There's outrage all over social media this morning. He grabs the face mask. How does the ref not see it? I mean, come on, dude. You think I'm going to feel sorry for anything either the Vikings or the Rams do? If you think the Minneapolis Miracle, I don't think about it at least once every day. You can kiss my ass. I think about it all the time, and the Rams too. So I don't like either one of those teams. But I'm certainly not going to feel sorry for him if something bad happens to him. Who cares? Anyway, sure, he missed a call. Sure, they could have come back and scored. But, I mean, let's think about the likelihood. Are they going to go down the field and whatever little time they had, they're going to go 97 yards and score a touchdown? Probably not. Now, it did deny them the chance to do it. Whatever. Anyway. I go off on a tangent. Jeez, I see we have a bunch of comments in the queue. I was looking at my paper there. Sorry. Good morning, A-Town. Happy 300. Thank you. Glad to be here. What else we got? Jerry, I got to get you on a show eventually, Jerry. The next time we do virtual guest, I don't know when that's going to be. We got to get you on the show. Ovide Kibido. I hope I'm pronouncing your name right. Good morning. Pretty good for a 2-4 team. I still see the light. Well, that makes one of us. Rocky says, big 300. We did make it here. We made it. That's Callie. Welcome. I'm glad y'all with us this morning. Yeah, A-Town saying hello to Jared. We're all just saying hello to each other. If you don't know this already, thank you, Kramer. Happy 300. Happy 300 to all of you. Brian Pearson, who died? It's not just me. We wouldn't be here if it wouldn't be for you. So this is your 300th as much. I know most of you haven't been here for 300 episodes. Brian, happy 300 day. We can all rest easy knowing I'm here telling it like it is. That's not what some people say. Tina, we are on fire this morning. Lance, thank you. If you don't know this already, you see what's going on. If you're watching live, you can be a part of the show by typing in your comment on YouTube or Facebook. And we ask if you haven't already done so, subscribe to our YouTube page. If you're watching on Facebook, just take a second. Go over to YouTube. Subscribe there. You'll always know when we go on the air live, which is every weekday, except Tuesday, 11 a.m. Central Time. David Bordelon, thank you for your congratulations. Trey, yeah. We'll say it in French. 300, it would be très cent, I think is 300 in French. Très cent. JJ, 300, and you've been here. JJ hasn't been here for most of them. JJ's probably been here as much as anybody. Sean, congratulations. Thank you. Cheryl, Miss Cheryl, how are you? Thank you. If you don't know this already, you can get in touch with me on X at Jim Derry Jr. via email, jderry@theadvocate.com. All right, before we get to the real Saints, the real meat, thank you, Hakeem. I appreciate it. Yep, Swifty is today. Congrats to Evangeline Securities, Nick Braden, for being in that number. He says he's just doing it to hang out with friends who came in town, but I think he might be a closet Swiftie. And if we don't have a sponsor for Monday's show, you'll know why. Maybe you're a closet Swiftie and you want to go from city to see her. Hey, Nick and his fellow managing partner, Ron Hemelt, they might be able to help you do that. They might help make it happen. If you've been thinking about selling your family-run or privately held business, then Evangeline Securities is where you want to go. They can help you figure out what your business is worth. They start by scheduling a complimentary valuation. What's next? Well, you'll have to wait until later in the show. Shake it off. It'll be okay. Play is going to play. Hate is going to hate. In the meantime, you can check them out at www.evangelinesecurities.com. I'm almost embarrassed that I know that. I told you that was the last song at Daddy-Daughter Dance the other day. I'm going to stick to it. That's the only reason why I know that. Promise. All right. Anyway. All right. Before we bring in Gabe, I got a little treat for you. And I actually may save Gabe for the end of the show. I'm not 100% sure yet. But I got a clip to play for you, put together. It's 2 minutes and 19 seconds. It's not really, it was really kind of thrown together. You know, I kind of half-assed it. I'm not going to lie. But it's some clips. It's a clip from the first time we ever did a live episode, which was not until, I can't remember the exact number. I think it's 87. I think it was episode 87. I know that it was 9/2/22 because I think about my sister when I was C2s. My sister passed away about 5 years ago, and she was born on 9/22, and her number was 2, and everywhere. Anyway, long story short, anytime I see a 2, I think of her. So just so happened, it was completely fluky that our first live episode was 9/2/22. So it starts with a clip of that, goes into, thank you, Adam. I'll see you in just a minute. In fact, I'll see you in the green room. Then it goes to the episode 100 that we had on live. It was a Duncan Holder reunion. Then we had I got a little small clip from former LSU baseball coach Paul Maneri after the Tigers won their 7th national championship. Got a clip from episode 200 when Red Bean, you know Devin? If you don't know Devin Snow, you should check him out. But he was on episode number 200. That's how we did it. Brian says, when I first started this podcast, how many people did I have on? If you don't mind me asking. I don't mind. Episode 1 is audio only. Again, the first 80, I think it's 86. The first 86 episodes were audio only. And that's how we did this podcast. Stan Verrett of ESPN was my first guest. You can go back and find it on SoundCloud or wherever you get your podcast. And maybe in the near future, I'll bring it, or maybe I'll wait till 400. I don't know, whatever. I'll play a clip of that pod. You can still find it. But Stan Verrett was my first ever guest back on episode number 1. And I believe we had about 250 to 300 people listen to that show, which I was happy with at the time. But as it grew, the podcast kept growing. It's funny, we don't have a ton of people actually just listen anymore. I know a lot of you still do. But for a while before we went live, we were getting well over 1,000 an episode, which is pretty good. But now we're getting, now that we've gone live and we do it this way, we probably get about, I don't know, we average, right now we're averaging somewhere around 9 or 10,000 a show between everything. Rocky says the best sports podcast around. Thank you, Rocky, and I thank you for being a part. But anyway, that's a long-winded way of me introducing this clip. It's a fun little clip I put together. Maybe next time I'll actually spend some time working on it. But here you go. Where you at, New Orleans? Hello, everybody, and welcome to the first ever live Dattitude podcast here. I'm going to do this every Friday morning here throughout the football season. We want to spend most of the show, Larry, talking about the Saints. However, we have compiled some clips, just a couple clips here that I want to show before we really dive deeper into the Saints for the people to see.
All I know is
it's there.
I've seen the weeks, and I just simply need a haircut. I'm looking.
You know, that's nice, but we were able to sneak in on Jeff Duncan and Larry getting ready for trick-or-treating. And first, let's take a look at Duncan. Yeah, that looks good. I like it. It's great.
This show is getting more absurd by the day.
Larry, I particularly like your idea considering your picks the past 4 weeks. I mean, doesn't that look good?
This is a rough show. I mean it is a roast, Larry Holder, but I deserve to be roasted. What can I do?
Stuff.
What can I do?
I thought that was fun. I mean, to go back in time.
Why am I the one being roasted?
Well, the problem with LSU fans is they're used to Skip, and he made it look so easy. He wins 5 in a decade, so it's our inherent right to just win national championships at LSU.
He's just not the right head coach, man. I like Dennis Allen, man. Dennis Allen, he's part of a lot of history that maybe fans maybe don't even remember. I had Tracy Porter on my podcast, and Tracy Porter said Dennis Allen is the dude that called him when they drafted him. That's who he talked to on the phone. That's how long this goes back.
Right.
So I respect Dennis Allen. As a head coach, it's just unbearable.
There are probably 3 or 4 really bad teams in the NFL. Probably 8 teams that if everything fell right, you a legitimate Super Bowl contender. And 20 teams in this league that are in football purgatory. You're not real bad and you're not real good. You stuck. The Saints are in football purgatory at this moment.
Of the 300 now shows that we've done, I had to find that live, that show, and it got me. I was a little late this morning getting in here. I like to get in here a little bit earlier just to let you know how it goes. Gabe and I talk about what's going to happen in the show, and I didn't get in until a little bit later than I like to get in, but I had to find that clip because of the 300 shows. That last line, which happened to be the first show of the quote unquote rebranding. March 1st was the first show that this became legit. Became my only job. Good morning, Randall. We'll see you in a minute. March 1st was the first day that this is my only job now. Well, it's my only job inside of the Advocate and NOLA.com. And that little clip has stuck with me since March the 1st and still sticks with me. And I think about it all the time. And Mike Detillier has been a great friend of this show. And I knew it was important for me to find it. And it took me a little minute to find it, but that's where the Saints are, man. The Saints are in football purgatory. How do you get out of football purgatory? I don't know. I really don't. Gabe, I'm going to bring you on for just a minute here because I just want to get your thoughts about today in 300. But I'm probably going to bring you back at the end because we only got a couple minutes before I want to get to the guest. But good morning, Gabe. And I mean this in all sincerity. We're talking about that last show, that last clip we saw, which was hard to believe. That was show 209. It means we've done 91 shows since the rebrand. It really is crazy. The older you get, and get off my lawn, dude, always says this, but time goes by so damn fast. It's absurd. It's obscene to think that was 91 shows ago. But I want to say this to everybody. I want everyone to know this, and I'm not just blowing smoke. I couldn't have done this without Gabe Henderson, who has been behind the scenes and sometimes in front of the scenes. But Gabe has done so much to help me get to where we are, and I really don't know that we could have done it without Gabe. And we'll see what's going on in both of our futures, sir. So I
appreciate that.
Tell you that. We'll get into more of that later on as I kind of have some underlying themes going on there. But what sticks out to you? Now, obviously, you haven't been part of all 300 because you came along. What has it been? 2 years now? You've been with us?
A little over 2 years. Yeah, I started with NOLA on October 1st, 2022.
Okay, so we used to have, for those who don't know, we used to have our own show when I worked in the sports betting department. We had a show called Bayou Bets, and Zach Ewing, who is now the Saints editor, was running the department, and then Thomas Casale took over. But we kind of had our own show, and now we kind of merged them all into my own pod, which again started in 2021. But it's been an interesting ride. Is there anything that sticks out to you? I mean, there's lots of things, I'm sure. But
I'm going to be honest. I thought you were going to show the picture.
I thought about it. I really
thought the picture was coming.
I was going to show, but it was Bayou Bets, so it wasn't part of Dattitude, so I left it out. But There's a picture back there, and I was going to see if you were actually going to talk about it, but when you see in the opening clip of me with 65-7 behind my back, the reason why that was behind my back is because Gabe and he had only been a part of this crew for just a couple of months, and we made a public bet online. He thought TCU would cover against Georgia because I said Georgia was going to wipe the floor.
To be fair, I did say cover a 21.5. I never. I just want to clarify. I never said they would win. Didn't think they would come close. I said they would. I said they would cover 21.5, and I was very, very wrong.
You were very wrong, and the reason why it started is because as often it still happens to this day, not quite as much, but I'll say something on the show, and Gabe's in the green room in the background monitoring everything, and he's shaking his head. He does that all the time. So he was shaking his head, and I'm like, whoa, you want to shake your head? We're gonna make a bet, pal. And so the bet was whoever was right. I had Georgia minus whatever it was.
21.5.
Okay, minus 21. I don't care. It could have been minus 51.5. I still win. The loser had to paint his face the colors of the other team. So I would have had to paint my face purple and silver.
Oh, that would have been funny.
On air, and I would have had to wear it on air for the entire show. And let me just tell you, my daughters, when I told them what was going on, both my daughters were rooting for you, Gabe. They wanted to paint my face so bad, but it didn't work out. And so I didn't show that clip, but you can still see part of it. And so anyway.
The picture's out there somewhere. My friends still make fun of me with that.
Maybe I'll show it in episode number 301. Who knows? All right. Yeah. Well, I'm going to bring you back at the end of the show here after we hear from our friends, John Pace, Adam Varner, and I hope I'm pronouncing Randall's last name right. He'll be on last at 11:40, I believe, or somewhere thereabouts. Aufrecht. I'm usually good at pronouncing names because my second gig is doing play.
German trip you up?
German trips up a lot of people. Although, Hassenpfeffer. I could eat. I know some food words. Schnitzel.
I'm the resident soccer fan, so I'm pretty good with names.
Munich. That's about it. All right. I'll talk to you in a little bit.
Sounds good.
All right. Gabe Henderson this morning. Okay. It's time to get to the part. I have no idea how this is going to go, by the way. All right. When we started talking about this a couple of weeks ago, Gabe and I, we have no idea how it was going to go. I didn't know if anyone was going to reach out. I didn't know if anyone was going to care. I didn't know if I was going to have 0 or 15 people ask me. I ended up having 3 people who really wanted to do it. I had a couple other people say they kind of wanted to do it, but never really got back to me. So we have 3 quote unquote, they're members of the Dattitude family now. So they're going to come on this morning one by one, and we're going to talk about whatever comes up. Now you see I got the Saints screen on here. So it's going to be mostly Saints, although if they want to talk about something else, they're more than welcome to. We're going to give each of them somewhere between 8 and 10 minutes and see how it goes. And we're going to start with John Pace. And John, welcome to the show. And I know that what has it been, a couple months now since you have been kind of a part of the Dattitude family?
Good morning, Jim. Who dat? Who dat? Yeah, on YouTube, it's probably been a couple of months. I've been listening to your podcast for a long time.
Appreciate it.
When I drive around, I would load up your podcast and get my fix on what was going on with the Saints.
Well, sometimes I'm right, and when I'm not right, everybody lets me know when I'm not right. That's for sure. All right, I want to get your take on, you live out of town, and where do you live? Tell me where you live.
I live in Colorado Springs, Colorado.
Yeah. Colorado Springs, Colorado. Now, are you originally from this area, or how did you become a Saints fan?
I was born in New Orleans, Marrero, and
both West Bankers.
Grew up for the first 5 years of my life in Slidell.
Okay.
And then my mom joined the Army, and so I've moved all over the place.
But you kept your Saints roots.
Kept my Saints roots. I have loved the Saints as long as I can remember.
Well, we're glad to have you a part of the family. Okay, now, all right. So we're gonna. Larry says, "Wow, he seems like a cool guy. He just has that star quality, that John guy." Is that a friend of yours, Larry? Is Larry a friend of yours?
Larry, $20 apparently.
Okay, apparently. I mean, hey, I owe people a lot more than that. So what is your assessment right now? I mean, the obvious assessment is, look, this team. That's why I brought up the football purgatory clip, and I'm going to kind of go to that. How would you want these Saints to get out of football purgatory?
Oh, well, I've been thinking about football purgatory ever since the Broncos game, because I came down to New Orleans and watched that, and it was awful. It was a spectacle. And at the time I thought this is probably, you have to go back to the Ditka days to get, the team in this bad a disarray. Now, after I've cooled down a little bit, and looked a little more deeply, I think, this reminds me a lot of Jim Haslett, right? Where the team was kind of, mired in futility.
Jim Haslett is a good way to put it, because if you think the only difference is, I think back when you go back to the Jim Haslett days, is the Saints still they hadn't really won anything. I mean, they won one playoff game. So the difference between
when they won their first playoff.
Yeah, and the difference between the franchise then is they weren't really expecting to win. Right now, it's almost the same kind of thing where Allen is mediocre, but mediocre is not tolerated anymore.
Yeah. The huge difference, right? Haslett came in to a dumpster fire, and kind of got the Saints. I mean, the first playoff win was huge for me because I can just remember, it was so long before the Saints had a winning season. Yeah. And then so long again, always get to the playoffs and get blown out in the playoffs. So that was a huge win. It certainly kept me behind Haslett for a couple more years, just the fact that he had pulled that off. So the difference there is, Haslett came into a wreck and kind of struggled to get it out of mediocrity. Whereas Dennis Allen is following on the heels of a great Saints team for 20 years. And now, I don't know about the rest of the Saints world, but, I'm spoiled. I loved.
There's nothing wrong with being spoiled.
No,
I mean, there really isn't.
I think I deserve it. I think I deserve to have a team that, has a winning tradition.
Well, and I will say this. I think that, maybe we were all a little too lenient on Haslett back in the day, because really, I don't think in any form or fashion, and I'll say this about my own show, about anyone else's job. I mean, look, I said this before, as someone who's been fired 3 times in the last 12 years after going through 20 years on Easy Street and taking some things for granted. I don't wish being fired on anyone, but at the same time, mediocrity just shouldn't be acceptable. And I think that's kind of where this franchise is now. I feel like, not the fans, because the fans aren't accepting it at all, but I feel like sometimes this franchise is accepting mediocrity, and this isn't 2004 anymore. This is 2024, and I'm sorry if Sean Payton and Drew Brees spoiled us, but we deserve better than this.
I agree. And, I think the offensive struggles are kind of understandable given all the injuries that we've had early in the year. So I kind of give them a little bit of a pass on the offense. But the defense, I mean, we've got names and we've got talent across,
100%.
all 3 phases of the defense. The most disappointing thing to me has been the defensive line and their lack of pressure and their lack of penetration. I mean, they've just been awful.
And when I talked about yesterday, I said, I know a lot of people were talking about potentially a top 5 defense or whatever, and I said, let's cool our jets. I didn't necessarily expect that. I'm like, I think it's more status quo. But even like the Derriest of downers, I don't think could pick 32nd in the NFL going into week 8. That's just unacceptable and shocking. Thank you, Spencer, by the way. Thank you, Spencer the Guru. Spencer the Guru, by the way, wishing us happy 300, a former member of the Bayou Bet Show. He was also part of how we all got it started. But anyway, John, just 32nd in defense. You brought it up, and I don't know how you get out of that because Dennis Allen is supposed to be the guru of the defense.
Right. And, of course, I'm wearing my, my Cam Jordan here because I love Cam. I don't mean any disrespect to Cam. He's having his worst year statistically this year. But, the defense as a whole, to me, just isn't playing fundamental ball. I mean, they're missing assignments. They have played well in the red zone for whatever reason, but, they've given up so many big plays and they just seem so ineffective against the run game.
Yep.
That that to me is the glaring problem because I think they've got plenty of talent. I just don't think they're playing good, sound, fundamental ball.
It's sad, really. Well, before we let you go, and we thank you for being a part of show number 300 here, but give me a prediction on Saints Chargers this weekend. I'll ask you I'm going to give my score prediction at the end of the show. I'll let you give your score prediction here on the air.
All right. Well, I looked at the game, dug into it, trying to figure out how the Saints win because I tend to be an optimist. I tend to look for how the Saints can pull off a game, and there's some hope here, right? The Chargers are banged up in the receivers. They're banged up. Their tight ends, their top two tight ends are hurt, haven't practiced all week. So, I think the way they win is they fill the box, load the box up, play man on the outside. They can't give up any big plays. And then on the offensive side, Spencer has to have some more confidence in those intermediate routes. He cannot be dumping the ball off, on a check down, and he can't have any big mistakes.
I agree wholeheartedly. What's your final score?
Final score, I don't think it's going to happen. There's just too many things that can go wrong. I hope I'm wrong, but I think it's Chargers 23, Saints 13. Too many short fields for the Chargers.
23-17. So you're saying the Saints cover?
No, 23-13.
23-13. Okay. So
the Saints will cover. I hope I'm wrong.
All right. Well, I hope you're wrong too, but I don't even know what I'm going to predict. Whatever comes to mind. Thank you, Barry, for the happy 300th wishes. Whatever comes to mind at that moment is what I'm going to predict, and I have no idea what I'm going to say yet. John, thank you for being part of the family. Thank you for coming on the show. We look forward to seeing your comments as we go forward.
Thank you, Jim. It's a pleasure.
Talk to you later. All right, John Pace. We thank him for being a part of the Dattitude family. Again, we got two more members of the family coming up in just a minute. Look, this Saints team, and I want to be optimistic too. Spencer, the only thing he likes is the Saints Chargers. He likes the under. And it's funny because Zach was telling me for 2 weeks he's been looking forward to betting this over, but I think that's when he thought Derek Carr was coming back for this game. I think the Saints' best chance to win, and yes, I said win. I mean, so you're saying there's a chance? Of course there's a chance. I mean, look, even the least obvious bets, they come through sometimes, right? So, look, the Saints can win this game for sure. I don't know what I'm going to predict yet. But the Saints can win, but they need to keep it. I think they need to keep this lower scoring. The higher scoring it is, the less chance the Saints have to win. I just don't look. I'm sure Randall and I will get into it in about 10 or 12 minutes. I can't wait for that. But I just don't think Spencer Rattler is going to lead this team to more than 20 points, maybe. That's just my guess. All right, let's see what Adam Varner thinks. I know it's his first time on a podcast. Adam, welcome to the show. Glad that you can only go up now, my friend. I mean, Joe Rogan is next on your list. You're going to go from Dattitude to Joe Rogan. That's the only really way you can go up to start this at this level.
I just feel blessed to be here, man. So, thank you so much.
We're glad you're here. Tell me a little bit about yourself. Where are you from, first off?
Well, I'm originally from kind of split home between Baton Rouge and Metairie.
Okay.
So I grew up in Tigerland, and then I grew up over down towards New Orleans. I'm a fan of both LSU and Saints, always have been. I currently live in Daphne, Alabama.
Okay.
but I can't wait to get into the topic.
So Daphne, Alabama, is that right above the Florida Panhandle? Or am I thinking of something? Where's Daphne?
I'm directly below Mobile.
Oh, okay.
We're right on the Mobile Bay.
Okay, so you're close to Gulf, kind of close to Gulf Shores.
About 40 minutes, but yeah.
All right, well, I'll
close enough to go visit, but not to.
All right, well, I'm a huge fan of Gulf Shores, Alabama. I will tell you that. It's been a couple years since we've been, but love it. All right, so let me hear you. John was a bit of an optimist. What are your feelings for right now? We talked about football purgatory. Again, there's a reason why I brought that clip and made that clip shown, even though I can't believe that was 91 episodes ago. But our friend Mike Detillier talking about where the Saints are and football purgatory. Do you think that's where they are right now?
I think my answer to your question is yes, and I think I put it more on a mental capability than physical capability. I feel like the Saints, as a team, as a staff, as everything, have lost their hunger. I do. I feel like they're not connected. You could see it when they play on the field. Some, half effort, some full blown effort, some act like they're just going through the motions. Chase Young's a big topic. Like, I thought he'd at least have 3 or 4 sacks. I mean, he's nowhere. I mean, I feel like we just wasted.
That's the huge disappointment. I mean, you pay $13 million for a guy, and look, he was doing so great in preseason. Then you find out he was doing so great because he was going against our horrendous offensive line.
Yeah, yeah, that's probably where the success came from, and I feel like everyone's just disinterested. I don't feel like Dennis Allen has the trust of the team, and vice versa. I don't think he trusts in his team anymore either. Like,
right.
I feel like he's not stupid. He sees the lack of effort himself too, and I feel like it just a lot of change needs to happen, man. Like, I feel like change on all levels and all fronts.
There's a comment here that I wanted to get back to, and it was way back a while ago, and I'll get your thoughts on it while we have you here. Country Boy Pitt says, when are they going to fire Dennis Allen, the Saints fan in Mississippi? And he follows that up with, so yes, he hopes Saints win the game, but it's a high-scoring game. They need to fire Dennis Allen at the end of the year or right now. I mean, I think most people feel the same way about Dennis Allen, but what exactly are your thoughts on Dennis Allen right now?
I don't dislike him as a person. I've been a fan long enough that I've seen him in other roles. And he's excelled in the defensive roles. He's been what we needed him to be. Do I think he's head coach material? No. And I don't think anybody does. Honestly, I really don't. And I feel like I'm not necessarily saying he should be flat booted from New Orleans. I don't want that to happen to anybody. New Orleans is a city that accepts everyone no matter who you are.
That's right.
That's kind of their thing. But do I think he'd be better use in a different position? Oh, yeah, for sure. I feel like
the problem is, Adam, I just don't know. You can't, once you make a guy, you give him that, you give him that raise, you give him that promotion, you move him from DC. Now, it happens in rare cases, and you can look at Denver, and you can look at, Joseph from Denver, who was the head coach and then got fired, and now he's the DC again. But, I can't see Dennis Allen willing to accept being a DC again, not at least in this town.
No, and he's not getting any younger either. So how long would he be wanting to be in that lower role anyway? He's probably wanting to retire at some point as a head coach, as anybody would. Do I think he needs to be? No. And I feel like we're not going to have an overnight fix of this team. I feel like it's going to take several years, several decisions. And on top of all that, we don't have the finances to fix this team.
100%.
The Saints are broke.
No, and Adam, I think the next coach that comes in here, unfortunately, is going to be in a terrible situation. That's why, we have all these people talking about Ben Johnson and Bob. Ben Johnson's already turned down like 6 jobs, okay? Why would Ben Johnson want to come to this gig? To me, if you're going to rip this team up from the floor, from the studs, if you're an up-and-coming coach, you're not going to want to start here, because this is a team, to me, that is kind of in a situation where I think you might not want to hear it, but I think they're going to be in a position to where they're not going to be able to win for a couple of years. I think once they actually start the process, which needs to start as soon as possible.
Yeah. And the touch on something you said the other day, in the past couple of days, the Alvin Kamara deal. Do I love Alvin Kamara? Sure. I mean, he's done well for us in the past. He's a very dual dynamic player when he wants to be. He can be a threat on the pass game and the run game, but do I think that money could have been used somewhere else because we don't have money? Yes, I do. And I feel like then nobody's going to be at the jump to want to come take a low offer to play for the Saints either, or to coach for them, like you were saying. I feel like we got to do a lot of thinking. The staff has to really, and do I think Dennis Allen's the answer like you asked earlier? Do I think he's a head coach? No, I don't think any of us do at this point.
Yep. All right, Adam. Well, give me your prediction for Sunday, Saints and Chargers. Look, first of all, before you give me your prediction, if they win this game, would you feel any differently? Would you feel better about where they are?
No, because this is one of those games that if we're going to win one, we should win this one or a handful of others. I don't think this is – it's not like we're going in playing against, the Vikings, and if we win that, I'd be like, okay, maybe we got a little something. This is not a team that's in the top of the league by any means. So, no, I don't – I think I'd be like, oh, cool, we won. But I don't think it would change my opinion on it.
Well, all right, well, give me a final score.
I think eventually the Chargers will run away with it. I do. I don't think – and then I don't think on that end Spencer Rattler can't read a defense. So I don't think he's going to make things happen. He might fumble backwards again, which we were all baffled about. So
Randall's not going to like that.
I give my opinion. I'm an honest guy. So I honestly think it'll be more like 31-17. I think we might could put 17. We might get in range for a field goal, score a couple tutties. That's on a good day. That's my best case scenario, about 31-17.
All right. Well, it's been a pleasure, Adam. Maybe we'll have you on again. We love you having in the comments. Stick with us, and thanks for being a part of the Dattitude family.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
All right. We'll talk to you soon.
Yep.
All right. If I can click on the right button here. There we go. That's why you shouldn't let sports writers handle stuff like this. All right. Gabe's telling me my connection's a little shaky. I hope it's getting a little bit better. You got to know that you're going to have a hiccup for something like this. I mean, we've gone probably 3-4 months without a single issue. And now, of course, episode number 300, we're going to have a problem. So I probably should have rebooted before we came on the show and cleaned everything out, but I was in such a rush that I just didn't have time. So I apologize if I'm not looking great here. There were a couple of questions before I get to Randall in just a minute. A couple of questions I wanted to get to. Hakeem, you asked how you come on live. Okay, it's a special thing that I kind of been talking about, and I know you've been kind of in and out. I know you've definitely been here the last few shows. So I think it's something I'm going to do more often. I'm not going to set a date that we're going to do it, but I think as we go along, maybe we will do it on certain days. Okay. So we'll see how it goes. Got to have enough interest to do it. Got to have enough people to want to do it. So if you want to come on live at some point, you can email me, jderry@theadvocate.com. I will make it work. Okay. If you want to come on this show, I'll make it so you can come. Maybe we'll make this a regular thing because I like how this is going so far. I definitely appreciate the guests that have been here so far. There was another question I think that I saw. Charles says, next time we have Dattitude family members, you'll do it. You're more than welcome. Again, if you want to get on, and maybe I'll put a little note here at some point in the show. If you want to come on the show, just email me, jderry@theadvocate.com. What I may start doing is one day a week, maybe on a Friday, maybe we'll have a member of the Dattitude family come on once a week. Maybe we'll start doing that. Or at least every other week or something along those lines. All right. Now, it's time to bring on a guest here that, we've been kind of, I don't want to say button heads isn't the right word because it's been all in fun. It's definitely been all in fun. But I'm going to bring on my man Randall here, who has probably been most vocal when it comes to Spencer Rattler. We don't necessarily need to start out with that, but I appreciate his candidness and coming back at me, and I like it. So, first off, Randall, am I been pronouncing your name right? Is it Aufrecht? Is that how you pronounce your last name?
That's it.
All right. I am glad to have you on this show here. You and I have been having a little fun with each other, I guess is the way you would put it. With our, you've called me a Derek Carr lover, and I've been getting at you a little bit for you thinking that Spencer, that Rattler is the future of this franchise. So, but it's all in fun, right?
Yeah. First of all, I want to say congratulations on 300.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah, I've probably been watching for about 4 or 5 months.
Yeah.
Well, maybe about 3 or 4 months. But I definitely watch every day now. So.
Well, I appreciate that you're a part of the family, seriously. And like every family, you don't always agree with everything that your family members say. And I mean this. And that's why I wanted to have you on here. I thought it was great to have you on. And that's why you're the last of the 3 guests. Because I'm serious when I say it would be like sitting on my couch during a game, having my friends over or whatever. You're going to go back and forth with each other. You're not going to agree on stuff. My own son is a Spencer Rattler lover. He loves Rattler more than you do. And he comes back and forth at me. And when I tell him he sucks, he gets mad at me and blah, blah, blah. So anyway, we're having fun with it.
Well, I just, I think it just at this point, I just want to see something other than Derek Carr.
I hear you.
And it's no knock on Derek Carr, to be honest with you, because he's an okay quarterback. He's an NFL quarterback for sure, but he just can't move. And if you're going to play football in the NFL, you have to be able to move a little bit. And he's not accurate enough to be, can't move, but still in a pocket, because you see what happens once he has to get off of that first read. I mean,
one thing I will say that I back you up on is, and again, I brought this up with the other 2 guests, and I brought it up with Gabe, and we talked about it, and Mike Detillier talked about this, but the words football purgatory. If you're in a football purgatory and you're trying to rebuild for the future, okay, there's no question that Derek Carr is not the answer to a long-term future. Now, where I disagree with many Saints fans is I don't think Rattler is the answer either. I guess there's nothing wrong with saying it, but I think this team needs to do something that they haven't done in forever, and that's actually go out and draft a real quarterback. And until that happens, I just feel like this team's not going to improve any.
Right. Well, I think a lot of the focus goes to Dennis Allen.
Yeah.
But I think a lot more of my focus goes towards Mickey Loomis.
That's fair.
Mickey Loomis, he hired Dennis Allen. But when he chose to keep Dennis Allen last year, that's I didn't disagree with that. And I think a lot of people didn't disagree with it. But his drafting over the last 3 years has been awful. It's been terrible.
I agree. What do you do? What do you do, Randall? How do you get out of this?
Well, first of all, not only, did he make bad decisions, but he doubled down with restructuring these contracts to these veterans. So it's almost as if, they're untradeable. You can go over a lot of their veterans, and I mean, there's nothing the Saints can really do with them. I mean, so, I think they're supposed to be like $81 million over the cap as of now for next year. I think the time was to rebuild was when Sean left and when Drew retired. But I think the first thing you do is you definitely fire Dennis Allen. Whether you do it during the season or after, I mean, I don't think that really matters. I would do it during the season, and I mean, whoever you want to put in place, that's fine. But I think and to be honest with you, I think the Saints just have to go and they have to hit in the draft. I think they have to have a 2017 type draft.
Do you agree with me that this team really kind of needs to and I've been saying this for years. It's not something that I just started saying yesterday. I've been saying it for at least 2 years, maybe longer. Do you agree that this team, we can't keep kicking the can down the road? They got to almost rebuild from the studs up. They got it from the bottom up. And that's why it's like I had a problem I love Alvin Kamara. I love Demario Davis. But you can't have 30-year-old running back and a 36 or 37-year-old linebacker if you're building for the future. I'd rather see young guys come in here and kind of the way that almost like what Houston has done.
Yeah, I agree. Let me ask you this first, Jim. Do you think whether he's going to do it or not, do you think Mickey Loomis is the best GM to rebuild this team?
Man, that's I've been asked that question multiple times over the past few weeks, and it's a really tough question to answer. I got to be honest. I think that Mickey Loomis has the best interest of this team at heart. I don't know that. I think if Mickey Loomis's full heart was in it and has it in him to do a full overhaul, then I'd say yes. But I just don't think that at his age, what it's going to take to rebuild this team, I don't know that he has it in him to do basically, in my opinion, and again, I know people don't want to hear it. The Saints don't want to hear it. But to me, this is a 3 to 5 year project. And I don't know that someone at Mickey Loomis's age has it in him. I think the Saints need to just completely inject youth into this franchise, because youth is really what gets these teams going, and find the best. Maybe it's Kai Hartley. Maybe Mickey becomes in an advisory position, and Kai Hartley becomes the GM and starts making decisions. And you find some young, energetic coach that knows what they're doing, or at least has some upside, that can come in here, maybe an Aaron Glenn or something along those lines, that's willing to take this job and willing to go through 2 to 3 to 4 years of hell.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I agree with you. And I've got no problem with 3 to 5 years, because as long as I can see that they're drafting and they're trying to rebuild, I'll be happy, even if we win 4 or 5 games a year. But if I actually see we're rebuilding, we're not restructuring contracts, we're not giving, big contracts to veteran players. That's all I want to see from the Saints at this point. It's not even about winning games.
No, and look, it's what I've been saying. If the Saints went out there and they were 2-5 right now, and the last 2 games they lost by, 5 points, and it was a heartbreaker, and just things didn't fall the right way, like it did in the Atlanta game, or even the Philadelphia game, even, you can accept that, because you can see that the team is busting their ass and trying. But when you go and you watch this, and you go through 2 weeks now where the Saints have been total disasters, I don't care that you're missing players on your offensive line or whatever, but when players aren't trying, that's when I have a problem. So like you said, I wouldn't even mind a 4-win team if I could say, you know what, I can see where this team maybe in a year or 2 is going to improve, and they're out there busting their asses every game. I'm okay with that. But I can't watch a team that just quits and looks like they don't care. They quit on their coach, because that's, to me, what it looks like right now.
Yeah, and Mickey seems to have this mentality of we're 1 player away.
That's right.
1 player away from what?
Exactly.
I mean, Tampa Bay's won the division the last 3 years in a row. And I mean, 1 year they didn't have a winning record. So, I mean, I think that's what the fans are most frustrated with. Is he keeps, I think, as if he wants to be the smartest guy in the room, and I'm going to show you, but it's not there.
I agree wholeheartedly. Before I let you go, 2 things. I want to get your score prediction on the game for this weekend, but I know there was another game you said you wanted to talk about. What game did you want to talk about besides the Saints Chargers?
Yeah, I just want to hit on the LSU game.
Okay.
There's a lot of talk coming out of College Station that this is the biggest game for Texas A&M since they've come into the Southeastern Conference. And the more I think about it, I mean, I think it is. The COVID season, they had 1 loss, but I can't really remember another season where they had 1 loss going into a really big game. So I think this game kind of means a little bit more to Texas A&M than it does to LSU, especially because it's, in College Station. But I also think that Brian Kelly's going to have them ready. And I think LSU goes to College Station and they get the win.
Sometimes, Randall, when it's the biggest game for teams and whatever, and I don't disagree with you, Texas A&M hasn't had nearly the success that LSU's had. And sometimes, to me, when you say, okay, this is the biggest game we've had since we've been in the SEC, and for LSU, it's just another big game. Like They have like 4 or 5 big games a year. I mean,
we have another one coming up.
Exactly. So that's kind of the difference in the mentality, right? And so I think that favors LSU. Now, I'm not saying I'm going to go out and put $100 on it, but I think LSU has the upper hand in this one. And the lines, whoever's in Vegas putting money on it, we saw in the beginning of the show, that line's going from LSU plus 2.5 to LSU plus 1. So people with money are betting on LSU. I like LSU in the game too.
Well, I want to.
It'll be fun. Go ahead.
I want to say this real quick. even though LSU is the underdog and Texas A&M is the favorite, the pressure is clearly on Texas A&M here.
Absolutely, no question about it.
I feel like LSU, if they can just go run the ball a little bit and they play defense like the way they have the last 3 weeks, really, I think they win.
Well, if LSU wins this game, there's no question that they are in absolute prime position to make the playoff, because I still think that LSU can lose one more game and get in the playoff. And if they win this one, then that would allow them to be able potentially, I'm not saying they're going to lose to Alabama, but if they did lose to Alabama, I think they would still be in position where they would potentially still have a chance to make the playoff. So that's how big this is. A big game. There's no question about it. And it gives you room to be able to do things. All right, Randall, give me your prediction. Saints, Chargers. Saints are 7-point underdogs on Sunday. What is your prediction for this weekend? Are they going to finally get out of this mess?
No. But I'll tell you this. If Taysom Hill plays, I don't. But even if he plays, is he 100%? I mean, I doubt it. But if Taysom Hill plays, I think he can put some pressure on the San Diego defense, and we can actually run the football and slow the game down a little bit and try and keep the ball away from them to keep our defense off the field.
Yeah.
But I think eventually San Diego, I think they'll win. I'll go 31-20 Chargers.
Okay, you got a high scoring game.
Well, who's going to stop them? Not the Saints.
Okay, I thought you were going to say who's going to stop the rat. All right. Well, we'll be back messing with you on Monday. And like, all kidding aside, like, seriously, thank you for being a part of the family. I love when you come at me. Keep doing it. Keep doing what you do. Keep watching the show. Keep commenting the way you comment. We love it here. And that's what this show is all about. It's supposed to be about fun. We're having fun. And, a lot of times I know it might seem like I get mad at somebody, and I never get mad at anybody. If I call you a numbnuts, it's out of pure love. I promise you.
All right, Jim, man. Who dat, brother? Congratulations on 300.
Who dat? Thank you for being a part of this. We appreciate it. All right, Randall has been a big member of the show as of late, and I appreciate him. I really do. And all of you. I know you hear me say that, and it's not just speak. I truly mean it. I'm so grateful. You just don't know. This show has really it started to take off a little bit when we did our rebranding. It got bigger each time. It seemed like that's when the numbers started changing for us and people started to notice. But really, I'd say around August, they really kind of kicked off. And I know more people are noticing this, and some people think I'm a clown. Some people like that I say it. So some people like that I say what I think, what I mean, what I feel. But some people think I'm a clown for it. And either way, it doesn't matter. We're going to continue to do this show the way that we've done it for the past 299 plus episodes. Adam, it was awesome to be on, to have you on. Thank you. Who dat and go Tigers. All right. I'm going to bring Gabe back on in a minute. And I know we got a lot of comments. Before we bring Gabe on, want to get to a lot of comments. William, all three of the guests were awesome. Even though we don't agree with Randall, he did a great job. But first, before we get to more comments, before we get to Gabe, we got about 15 minutes or so left in the show. I got to tell you something first. This ain't no love story. And you don't have to be Tim McGraw to want to know more about how Evangeline Securities can help you figure out what your family or privately owned business might be worth and whether it's time to sell. You want to know how they do it. Well, after their complimentary valuation of your company, if you decide to proceed, native New Orleanians Nick Braden, Ron Hamilton, the folks at Evangeline, they're not going to talk about Swifty. They're going to talk about you. They're going to begin an extensive auction process among established private equity funds from around the world. They will maximize the return process for the founder and his or her family. Even after a cruel summer, you belong to only you. Yeah, that was bad. That was really bad. Look, Evangeline Securities is the top producer on their platform, and there are very few companies like them in this area. None with their dedication and success. They are fully licensed and ready to serve you. So get in touch with Nick and Ron about what's really important. You know what it is. Is the rest of your life. You can find them at www.evangelinesecurities.com. All right, Gabe, hit me with the comments before we bring you on. What we got that I missed? You can go back to, I don't know, 10 or 15 minutes ago. I know I missed some. I got to get some. I'm a little verklempt here. A little water. David Bordelon, do we think Arch would play in NOLA if we were able to draft him for a couple of years? I mean, does he really have a choice? I mean, look, I know the Mannings got pulled. I mean, if he was the number one draft choice, I guess you could say. I don't think what they did back in those days, what John Elway did, and was it Eli or Peyton? One of them. I don't remember which one. One of them basically said, Eli? It was Eli that did it? You can't. I don't know if you could do that anymore. We're not playing there. Well, tough turds. I mean, I don't care. So, yes, if Arch were to eventually get drafted by the New Orleans Saints, I think he would be forced to play here. I don't wish that on him at all, by the way. Valerie Lynn, I like Gruden a lot, but a lot of people don't. Look, I liked Gruden maybe when they were hiring a coach, like in the beginning, back when 3 years ago when they were hiring Dennis Allen. I would have rather to see a Gruden now, but I'm going to go back to what I said. It's not because of Gruden, and I know all his baggage, and I'm not getting into all that. I don't think Gruden is right for this team because I don't think he's the right age. This team needs, I'm going to say it again, they need a youthful injection. They need somebody to come in here and be fired up and want to work. And I'm not saying, I don't know how many hours a day Dennis Allen works, but it's not the same. Rocky says clean house all the way around, front office included. Nola Rebel says, congratulations on number 300. You listen all the time from beginning, just not always live. Well, we're glad you're live today. By the way, had a text from a good friend of mine. I talked about him last week when we were talking about the Pelicans, and he was helping me get some information. My friend Trey Folse says happy 300. Thank you, Trey. Hakeem, clean house fully. Even changed the paint in the building. Well, you're not going to change. What do you want to change the colors? I personally like the colors black and gold. I do think the uniform needs that's another thing. When you do all this stuff and you start changing, I'm not saying I love black and gold. Don't get me wrong. I love the fleur-de-lis, but I do think there are some uniform changes needed. William said I chose 3 very good, knowledgeable, and articulate guests. I think they did a wonderful job. Guests were great, says Charles, a.k.a. Kramer, a.k.a. George Costanza. John, who dat? Congratulations on 300. Thanks to Gabe and I for making Dattitude. No, thanks. Y'all are making Dattitude. I just talk. Larry says, wonderful guest. Wonderful. All right, let's bring on Gabe. I got to go back to my other slide here. I'm going to do it on the fly here. Fridays with Gabe. You heard the comments about LSU. You see the line change. It's kind of weird.
Yep.
So that's a serious line. And then, by the way, we didn't even talk about this. I haven't talked about Tulane at all. But in case you haven't noticed, and judging by the attendance, you haven't. The Tulane Green Wave, that total, they're still 8-point favorites over North Texas. But this total on Wednesday was 66.5. This morning it was 69. So people are betting the over. Like, I don't know what people know about the Tulane North Texas total, but to make it go up that much, it must have been a big bet on that over.
Yeah, maybe Seth Luttrell will be in the building. No defense after he just got fired from Oklahoma.
Yeah,
maybe he'll be back at North Texas. I don't know.
We'll see.
I don't understand that at all.
Friday morning on this episode number 300.
You know, I thought there were some great conversations that we just had, but the one thing that really stuck out to me was Randall's comment on this being A&M's biggest game. I hadn't seen that, or I hadn't thought about that, but it really is.
It kind of is, isn't it?
I hadn't thought. I mean,
they've gone through.
As someone from Texas, I hear all about A&M all the time ad nauseum, but I haven't heard that angle, and I think it's a great point.
I'm not saying after the fact, because if you talk about after the fact when they win a game, I mean, Johnny Football beat Alabama, and that's probably the biggest win. But as far as going into a game saying this is our biggest game because of what it means and the repercussions of what this means, I mean, to still be undefeated, I'm not saying you're guaranteeing because they still got to play Texas, right? I mean, I don't even know the rest of the schedule.
They end the year with Texas.
I mean, so there's no guarantee that who wins this team and gets into the SEC championship game, but especially for LSU. If LSU wins this game, they've got a super leg up on being able to make the SEC championship game.
I mean, you just the thing that sticks out to me, and because I really started thinking about this when Randall said it, is even when they had Johnny Manziel back then, they didn't have a chance at making the SEC title game. Because there was always someone, because it was by division, they had to play Alabama every year, they had to play LSU every year, and those two teams kicked the crap out of them constantly. And then they always found a way to lose to the Ole Misses of the world, the Auburns of the world, and all that. But if you go look at A&M's schedule this year, it might be the luckiest SEC schedule I've ever seen.
I don't know. LSU's is pretty easy.
No.
As far as SEC goes, by the way.
So A&M avoids Alabama and Georgia.
Okay.
Entirely, which they've ducked Georgia almost their entire time in the SEC. It's incredible.
Well, LSU ducks Georgia and Texas.
But here's the thing. A&M, and I know LSU had some tough games on the road. A&M plays LSU, Texas, Missouri, and Notre Dame all at home.
Well, you could say
it's unbelievable the luck that they've had.
LSU plays Alabama and Ole Miss.
Yeah, Alabama and Ole Miss at home, but they still had to go on the road against USC essentially. Say whatever it is. Vegas is a home game for USC.
I agree.
At South Carolina, Williams-Brice is not an easy place to win. But then if you look at A&M's road games, they played Arkansas at a neutral site in Dallas.
Yeah.
They play at Mississippi State. I mean,
that
is the easiest SEC schedule I've seen. So yeah, I mean, if you look at it, this is their first real chance at making an SEC title game. And I think everyone assumes it's a given they'll lose to Texas. So if they beat LSU here, they'll have passed all of their tests, and they can afford a loss to Texas.
Well, and LSU's kind of in the same boat, right? I mean, that's what I'm talking about. If LSU wins this game, I mean, I don't think there's nearly as much pressure on them. Of course, you want to win at Alabama. Don't get me wrong. You're always going to want to win Alabama, and it's a big game. But it takes a lot of the pressure off you, because I think if LSU wins this game, and then their only loss the rest of the year is to Alabama, they're going to be in the playoff. That's unless they
absolutely a two-loss SEC team will get into the playoff.
Absolutely, they will. So
with a few signature wins. I mean, LSU would have a top 10 win over Ole Miss. Plus, I've said it the last few weeks, and I'll keep saying it. They just have to go 1-1 against A&M and Alabama, and then take care of business the rest of the games.
Yeah, well,
that's all they got to do.
We'll see how it goes. We will talk about it on Monday, and I'll see you then.
Yep, sounds good.
All right. Gabe Henderson, I thank him for being a part of the show. Again, seriously, we couldn't do this without Gabe. I mean, he's the engine behind the scenes that y'all don't see all the time. Before we go off the air this morning, a couple comments from y'all before I give my final comment of the day. Apathy was saying earlier, and welcome to the Dattitude family. I don't remember seeing you before. If you've been a part of the show, thank you. But regardless, first time I remember putting your comment up there. I don't think any change is going to happen. DA would have to win 5 games total. Loomis on WWL just blames injuries. I got to be honest. I don't agree with that. I think that the Saints are at a point. And by the way, UBN says happy 300th. He's on the road. He's on I-55. And he said, Randall, you weren't terrible, if you're still listening. That's a compliment for him. David Dukas says, congratulations on number 300. Thank you. But after apathy, I will say this. I don't think the Saints, the management, the ownership, whatever, I don't think this team is in a position any longer. Remember how last year I used to talk about it didn't matter what the fans think? It didn't. Dennis Allen was coming back, okay? Dennis Allen was coming back no matter what. That's the way that it was. I mean, they would have had to have the bottom fall. It's not the same this year because it does matter what the fans think now. Why is now different than before? Because you're getting to a point, Jerry, thank you very much. You're getting to a point now where you're starting to go south like these Saints last went with Hazlitt at the end. I mean, you had Katrina, so that's a little different situation. But Ditka in 99, you think about where that Saints team was and the dome was getting empty. John Pace says he thinks DA gets fired then in the season unless the Saints make the playoffs. I mean, you're getting to Ditka territory. You're getting to, let's see. I think you're getting to, I don't know. At the end of Mora, it wasn't this bad. It wasn't as bad as Ditka. I mean, you got to go back to before that. You got to go back to Bum Phillips days when there was nobody in the dome. But I think that's where you're going to get if you don't make a change, and I think they know this. You cannot have what we saw last Thursday night in the dome, which is becoming a regular occurrence. At the end of the game, there was nothing but orange in the bottom bowl. Excuse me. Nothing but orange in the bottom bowl. You can't have that. I think they know that you can't have that. Tell you why, and there you go. Brian says it, because the dome will be empty. It won't be empty. You'll have fans from other teams there. And you can't have that. And that's kind of where this team is right now. So that's why I do think that, you know, we had Larry on, Wednesday, and he said there was a 0.0 chance that Dennis Allen's back next year. I don't think it's that low, but they would have to turn it around. Do they have to make the playoffs? They might not have to make the playoffs. See, you still can't do it. Just saying. You can't say playoffs without going, playoffs. Jim Mora, by the way, I got to find out what number, guess, when we're talking about, we're reminiscing, and I go all over the place. Jim Mora was on this show a couple years ago. Go find it. It was an audio-only pod. Sean wants to know, can Allen survive another blowout? You mean, like, is he going to get fired after this game? I don't think so. David wants to know, 40% he gets fired, 60% he stays. Oh, no. It's not that high. No way it's 40%. That's Dennis Allen's wife's prediction. Dennis Allen, honey, what do you think the percentages are that I'm still the coach next year? And she says, oh, well, honey, I think you got about a 40% chance. That's like a wife predicting that, or a mama. That ain't a realist. It's more like 5 to 10%. I mean, because seriously, what would have to happen? At the bare minimum, okay, I think 8-9 is the bare minimum. I don't think this team's going 6-4 down the stretch. That's the and then he's probably still not going to stay, but he might. At least we'd have conversations on this show about whether he's staying if they go 8-9. If they go 9-8, then he probably stays. What is the chance? So what do you think the chance of this team goes 9-8? Gabe says 0. I say it's 5 to 8%. And I think the chances that they're 8-9 or better is somewhere around, I don't know, I'm obviously making up a number here, 13%. 12 to 13%. So anything at 8-9, you have a conversation. 9-8, he probably stays. Charles says 5%. Randall says Mickey's not firing DA during the season. I think he fires Mickey during the season if they just keep stinking. Like, you can't keep them if they keep playing like they've been played the last 2 weeks. I'm not saying they will. And I think and I'm not saying this to be a smartass. When Derek Carr comes back, they're very likely won't play like this either. He won't let them play like this. Derek Carr won't let them play like this. So if they keep playing like this, though, and they keep getting blown out, you have to. You have to fire him. Again, I don't know how many ways to say it. I don't root for. Randall says we're lucky if he even fires him. I mean, I don't root for anyone to get fired because I've been there. It's hard. I'm not saying I'm root for it, but I think it's got to happen. David Bortle on 2%, 8-9. Come on, man. That's a little unreal. 6-4 the rest of the way with the schedule they got. I don't think that's realistic. I'm not saying it's high, but it's better than 2%. Charles, even if you finish 8-9 or 9-8, DA still needs to go. You need to prepare yourself. Derek Carr can't play defense. That's true. You need to prepare yourself, Charles. If it happens, if 8-9 or 9-8, you think that, and a lot of other people do. Almost everybody does, but they'll think differently if they go 8-9. If they make a run, they're going to think differently. John Pace says if we keep losing game like the last 2 weeks, DA won't finish the season. That's the truth. He can't. He won't. All right, final score prediction. We don't have Larry here. I don't even remember what I put in my column. I struggled with this one. Because the Saints, I guess, the person who has followed this team since my little boy age of whatever and going to Tulane Stadium. That's how old I am. Yes, I very vaguely remember. I remember a very cold day in Tulane Stadium. They got their asses kicked by the 49ers. I don't remember. I think it probably was 74. That was the last year they were in Tulane Stadium. I would have been 6 years old, and I just remember it was freezing cold. Saints got their ass kicked. But as a Saints fan that remembers that day, not as the media person that I am on the show, I guess. I'm kind of a mixture of both. I think the Saints get crushed. The fan in me says they get crushed. It's the opposite of what it usually is. As someone who's worked for bet.noah.com, and I try to look at this game objectively, what I would think if I didn't give a rat's ass about this game, I would probably take the Saints in the +7. Why? Because no one's going to take the Saints in the +7. A-Town says Saints will lose 31-17. Apathy says DA gets fired. Aaron Glenn is probably your next head coach. Aaron Glenn makes the most sense. Is Aaron Glenn young enough? Randall, I got to be honest. Sorry, Gabe. Chargers will have at least 250 rushing yards. I got to be honest. I almost kind of hope so. Is it bad? I got Dobbins on my fantasy team. I really need to win this week. Is it bad to root for J.K. Dobbins to rush for 200 yards and have 2 touchdowns? I mean, the Saints could still win. Charles, so Arizona's better than the Saints? No, I don't think Arizona's better than Gabe's shaking his head just like he did when he talked about TCU. Arizona's not better than the Saints, no. Who would win? Arizona might win. That doesn't mean they're better than the Saints. Jerry's always – I love you, Jerry. I don't give a rat's ass what's going on. Jerry, you are the most positive mofo I've ever met. And we never even met. Tired of being a loser. You are one positive SOB. Gotta love it. I will say this. Well, Kyler Murray's a better quarterback. Oh, well, I don't know if he's better. I don't know if Kyler Murray's a better quarterback. I would rather have Kyler Murray. Does that make sense? I don't necessarily think he's a better quarterback, but I would definitely rather have Kyler Murray, especially in this situation, because he'd absolutely be more fun to watch. So, but as far as numbers go, Kyler Murray gets hurt a lot. Oh, put the Adam Varner quote up there. Comment. This one I got to read out loud before I give my prediction. He thinks we beat the Browns and Panthers. Those are toss-ups. Let me tell you something about the Browns. I've been talking about this for weeks. I haven't talked about it in quite a few weeks, but I talked about it in July, and I talked about it in August, and I talked about it when I was saying why I thought the Saints were going to go 7-10. If you don't think Jameis Winston is licking his chops to come back to the Dome and stick something up the Saints' keister, you're wrong. He can't wait to come back to the Dome and hand a plate of Crow Po' Boy to Dennis Allen. Oh, you think? Can't wait. Gabe says in my column, I said 26-20 Chargers. I think it's going to be lower scoring. I think I gave too many points. Here's my final prediction as we make our final comments here on show number 300. If you want to make a prediction, now's the time. It's now or never. We're about to go bye-bye. I think the Saints are competitive in this game. I think Spencer Rattler plays his best of 3 games. I know that's not saying a whole lot. I'm not being funny because he didn't play well in the first 2 games, and I still think he doesn't have a lot of vision. This is a really tough defense. And as Larry pointed out the other day, even though the defensive numbers, and you could see them on the screen, the Chargers are 7th overall in defense, but they're 1st in points allowed. So that will make things tough. Randall says 31-20 Chargers. Brian says 32-9 Chargers. Okay. Michael says no way the Saints score 20 points. John Pace says 23-13 Chargers. I think the Saints are going to surprise people. I'm not saying they're going to win. I will say this. It wouldn't surprise me. Well, not surprise. It wouldn't shock me if the Saints won this game. If they have any self-pride at all, they have any self-pride at all, they're going to play their asses off this week. Adam says he's sticking a 31-17 Rattler, 1 touchdown, 1 pick, 256 yards. That's a lot of yards. Randall, you're right. I did pick the Saints to win at KC. I did. So obviously I've been wrong. I also picked them to lose to Philly when a lot of people said Philly would win. Gabe says 20-9 Chargers. I also picked them to lose to Atlanta. And people said I was crazy. Saints 17-13 says Rocky. I also picked them to beat Carolina. So sometimes I'm right, sometimes I'm wrong. Charles says Chargers 28-17. Brian says Saints 34, Chargers 31. That is a high-scoring game, my friend. David Bordelon says 19-17 Chargers. Williams says it's a trap game for bettors because they're law of averages. Yeah, that's kind of why, as from a betting perspective, I definitely like the Saints to cover. Who Dat Daddy says Saints win 32-17. Wow, you think the Rat's going to have a good day. Joseph Moore says 24-23 Saints. We saved the season this weekend. Is this season savable? Joe, really? All right, I'm going to give you a final score now because again, it's time to wrap the show. We're well in there, and I got a couple things to say about today's show and where I am right now, and I'm going to be a little sentimental probably for a minute, but I'm going to say again, I think the Saints come out and play one of their better games, especially during the losing streak. I can't predict them to win, but again, it wouldn't shock me if they. I will let you dream, Joe. I promise. Who dat, baby? It wouldn't shock me if the Saints won. I got to be honest. It wouldn't shock me if the defense has its best game since the first 2 games. I really, one thing I do want to see, and I joke about Rattler, is I do want to see how he plays in the third. Third game is a big deal. You know, first 2 games you're at home, you're thinking about it, you're amped up. You're probably not quite as amped up. You're probably not as nervous for that third game, right? You started 2 now. All right? But if he stinks, you got to take him out of there, Alan. You got to put Hainer in. If he stinks at halftime, you got to make a change. Michael, Chargers better coach, better quarterback. They got a better quarterback because Spencer Rattler stinks. I don't get the love for Harbaugh. I don't think he's a good coach at all. I know a lot of people think differently, but I don't. Dom's going to have 150 yards. I think you might be right on that. Cannon McGee, what's up, Dattitude family? So my final score prediction is going to be Chargers 20, Saints 17. Uncle Big Nick, you're not supposed to be typing in on the road while you're driving on I-55. Wait, Niners beat them. Shocking. All right. John says Harbaugh's a great coach. You take him. I wouldn't. Besides the fact that I don't like Harbaugh at all, he's way too old. We remember go back. We got to go back. Young. We need to inject this team with youth. All right. It's going to pretty much wrap it up for us today. I've said this before, but I'm going to say it again. 300 episodes. I'm being completely honest. When I started the show, again, as an audio-only podcast, I had no earthly idea that we would get to this point. Not that we're like viral or anything like this. We've got our own little family here, and our family is loyal, and the family keeps growing. That's where this show is. This show is about me giving you guys a platform to talk, and not just like we did today with John and Adam and Randall and actually on the show, although I do want to do that more. You don't have to be able, you don't have to call in. You can type it in. To me is the same as calling in, because we can keep going back and forth all day long. When you got a call in, a caller calls in and talks for a minute and then it's gone. And you forget about the caller. Here, you got people chiming in, and Sean's been chiming in. Winston will be feasting on crab legs and crawfish on us. But Sean can comment in minute number 2. Who dat? Great show. Happy 300. Thank you, Who Dat Daddy. But Sean or Who Dat Daddy or one of my best friends on this planet, Eddie Burris, congrats on 300. Thank you. Joseph Moore, congrats on 300. Thank you. S. Callie, great show. Thank you. But the difference, the way that we do it here is you can tell me something in minute 3. You can tell me something again in minute 23, and then in minute number hour and 23. That's kind of why I like the way that we do it here. And I'm serious when I mean that y'all are like my Who Dat family. I mean, my wife, who doesn't give a rat's ass about sports in the grand scheme of things, is suddenly starting to care about what's going on with your show. How you getting these people to come on, and I'm hearing from so-and-so and making the rounds. Cannon always goes over the show when he gets off from work. Love learning from a podcaster. Best show, hands down, says Charles. Thank you. And it's because of you guys. We're just trying to do it. Barry says, imagine Buddy D dealing with the Saints team today and the Squirrels. Oh, my goodness, the Squirrels. I wonder if he would mind, would the late Buddy D mind if I might start calling some of y'all Squirrels. I don't want to steal it. I've been trying not to use that. It's better than numbnuts, though. Been fun. Adam says he hopes to make another appearance. You will. Show is your favorite. First podcast experience. Let me know how it goes on Rogan after. When you're on Rogan, I want to know what it's like. When y'all become big. 300. It's my, I probably, if you go back and listen, and you can go back and find it again, it might be fun for you to do it. I haven't listened to it in a long time, but you can go find it on SoundCloud is where our main audio only host is, but you can find us on Apple and Spotify and whatever. You can go back and find episode number 1. Brian says, can I give us your predictions before I go off the air about the Pelicans game tonight? Pelicans, Blazers, even without Murray. Is Zion back, Gabe? I think he's supposed to come back. I think the Pels win both of these games against the Blazers. They better. Blazers got blown out by the Dubs the other night. They're not good. So I think the Pels win tonight, and I think they win Sunday. But go back and listen to episode 1, a part of it. It's fun. And how different I sound, probably. Now, you saw a clip of me from we had the Duncan Holder reunion when I used to do the Black and Gold Today show. That was in 2015, by the way, that little clip. We were roasting Larry. But I'm sure I sound a lot different on show number 1 than I sound today. It's because I'm actually talking to you. I wasn't talking to you then. I was just talking. That is what has evolved over the last 91 episodes more than anything. A lot of fun. So we'll see how it goes, and we'll do something special for number 400, which should be, I'm trying to figure out when that would be, sometime around probably the beginning of next football season, maybe a little before that, maybe in the summer. I'm not exactly sure. So we went from March to October, but it's not going to exactly work that way because we do take some time off in March. Or February, whatever Mardi Gras is. It's in March this year. Couldn't do it without you. Dead serious. Brian, love the show. We love you, man. So thank y'all for being a part. All right, back to our regular schedule next week. Episode number 301 on Monday. We'll have Mano E Monday. That should be a lot of fun. For some reason, the days after Saints, or whatever the next show is after a Saints game, those have been the biggest. Because y'all like to get it off your chest. Maybe you like to hear me go off, especially when they lose. Who knows what we'll say. It'll be fun. So you can come back Monday live at 11 Central Time. And then Wednesday, Thursday, Friday next week as we get back to our regular schedule. All right, that is going to wrap it up for show number 300. And for this Friday, I want to thank all of you. I want to thank especially John Pace, Adam Varner, Randall Aufrecht, for being our guest today. We hope you can join us, as we said on Monday, when we're not going to have a guest. It's going to be Mano E Monday. So I'm starting to enjoy these no guest shows. If you notice, we're doing these more and more. We're having fewer guests as we go along. I think it works better this way. I know Larry's coming on Monday. I don't know about the rest of the week. Got a feeling Doug Mouton's going to come on next Friday, maybe. UBN will be on Thursday. Reminder to subscribe to our Dattitude YouTube page. Charles says, go Saints, go LSU, go Pels. Absolutely. If you have not done so, what are you waiting for? I mean, we've done 300 episodes. How many more do we need to do for you to go to the YouTube page and subscribe? We need you. We need you on our wall. We want you on that wall. You can't handle the truth. Maybe you can handle the truth. I don't know. You can also find us wherever you get your podcasts, including Apple, Spotify, many more. Find a replay of the show of NOLA.com on NOLA.com/sports. Get all of Gabe's work, my picks column on bet.NOLA.com. Saints Insiders on NOLA.com/Saints. If you're going to Swifty, God help you. God love you. Say hello to Nick Braden for me. We will see you on Monday. Thanks, everybody, for being a part of the show. A-Town, same dat time, same dat channel. You got that right. We'll see you on Monday. Everybody have a wonderful, glorious weekend. Take it easy, my friends.
If you're looking for the latest scoop and in-depth interviews on the Saints, the NFL, the Pelicans, LSU, along with the best bets of the week, then lucky you. Along with high-powered, in-the-know guests who cover our teams, Jim Derry brings plenty of Dattitude. And he'll always tell you the way it is, or at least the way he thinks it is.